I'm sure we all remember the weeks before this year's elections. Op-ed after op-ed, article after article raining into our eyes through a nauseating slew of information. Do you remember the phrase, end of democracy? That the next 4 years, regardless of who would win, could fundamentally destroy our country. Day after day, we were inundated with the coming of the end times. Of course, we now know what happened. The tide of change has passed, and yet there's still an undercurrent of apprehension, of fear, of the one tipping point that will lead to collapse. We tend to imagine the death of our institutions not as the slow, grinding rot of the clockwork that runs our society, but sudden implosions like the rock that hurtled into the Yucatan Peninsula 66 million years ago. There's something in our fascination with death, not with a whimper, but with a bang. I want to take you back to January of 2020. This was 2 months before the pandemic officially was declared. I remember distinctly sitting in the ice cream-stained backseat of our SUV while NPR radio spoke in big, somber tones through our car dashboard of the rapidly rising virus in China, of how it had already spread to a few adjacent countries. There was an electric tension in the air, like the world was teetering on the edge of a plague the proportion of the Black Death. As my dad drove me to school, I was already conjuring up fantastical visions from my favorite zombie movies, trekking across the vast grassland wilderness of a post-apocalyptic America as the world around me crumbled, wearing a respirator as I journeyed through a sickened world, something out of a Fallout game, almost. It was a vision of the end times that'd never quite pass. 2021, February, Ukraine. As the troops amassed on the eastern border, I remembered 8th grade me in a state of morbid and definitely naive excitement. Like the cerulean orange world of a Michael Bay movie, I envisioned the nukes as they streaked across the sky, sparkling the annihilation of human civilization. A vision of the end times. When reflecting on these moments, I was surprised to find that these feelings weren't solely isolated to just me. A 2021 Lancet study in the UK surveyed 10,000 16 to 25-year-olds in 10 countries around the world and found that 55% agreed that humanity was doomed. A 2020 French survey found that 39 to 71% of adults in the 5 developed countries they surveyed agreed that civilization as we know it will collapse in the years to come. A 2012 Ipsos poll finds that about 14% of global citizens believe the world would collapse in their lives. A 2022 report by the Pew Research Center found that 1/3 of Americans expected an apocalyptic event in their lifetime. All around us, we feel as if the doomsday clock is ticking ever asymptotically to midnight. Why do we do this? Why do we romanticize the end of civilization itself, the erosion of our dreams, our aspirations, our hopes to nuclear dust? Do we actually hope for the world to end? Is it fear? We seem drawn to catastrophe as if somehow these visions of doom give our lives a grander purpose. Maybe it's the idea that everything we face, the daily grind, the petty struggles, the weight of our responsibilities will be swept away, and all that will be left is some final battle between good and evil, light and dark. It's almost a relief, isn't it, to imagine a world where we don't have to worry about deadlines, where survival itself is the sole goal. I want to take a look at another example that can help us answer our original question. Decade after decade, our scientists have given us the same ominous warnings, just incremented a little bit above our current state. The world will collapse due to global temperatures 0.5 degrees above average, 1 degree above, 1.5 degrees above. Actually, last year, we just crossed that 1.5 degree threshold, each turn of the dial taking us closer to a hypothetical apocalypse, and yet we do nothing. Every 4 years, the United States either promises to destroy climate protections or makes vague attempts towards fulfilling their campaign promises. And why would they take action? Historically, we have been the liver of Prometheus, shredded to pieces by the talons of history, but growing back each time. The apocalypse we all mythologize never arrives. Climate change is not an eagle swooping down from heights, devouring a world in a momentous catastrophe. We tend to state it that way. If you've seen disaster movies, you know what I'm talking about. A large global storm or a blizzard that covers all of Earth. But climate change is not an event. It is a process. It is a rot, slowly chipping into the clockwork of humanity till it grinds no more. And I think it is our fascination with the sudden apocalypse that prevents us from taking action. It is easy to dismiss one-off hurricanes or to claim that rising sea level temperatures are a statistical fluke. After all, where's the global storm? Where's the destruction of Los Angeles under the waves of a sinking world? The end times have not come, so why should we do anything about them? The truth is that the apocalypse is a convenient lie. It is a scapegoat for inaction. It allows us to avoid acting on pressing issues now, for if the apocalypse has not come yet, it will never come, right? A recent paper published in Science Advances shows us the various behavioral methods we can use to motivate climate change action. They found that this line of negative reinforcement emphasizing the end of the world is unusually effective at getting people to share climate change stories on their Instagram feeds. When it came to real climate action, planting trees or developing more climate responsible habits, this apocalyptic mindset, the study found, tended to discourage people from pursuing those meaningful actions. After all, why deviate from my comfortable existence if I can just wait for that ever-looming apocalypse? The idea of the end times will bring about the end times. We cannot wait for the next pandemic to devour the world in a scale not seen since the Spanish flu. We cannot wait for conflicts in Europe or the Middle East to drive us into the next world war. We cannot wait for the rise of populist, authoritarian, and ultra-nationalist rhetoric around the globe. We cannot wait for our species to defile our planet and our climate. We cannot wait to act till our world crumbles to the rot. Because all our human achievements, all our resilience, all our human willpower will not break under the strike of a sudden hammer. It will erode under the crushing weight of our own hubris, our layer of pretension that the world is fine, that the rot has not already begun. So instead of romanticizing the end, I ask us to romanticize the beginning. Imagine for a moment not just the end times, but the times ahead. Times that we can shape, not with fear, but with resolve. Because if we're going to face a challenge, let it be the challenge of building something lasting, something resilient. We will not idly wait for the end times as the clockwork of chaos descends us to entropy. We will not consign ourselves to dust, whether that be the nuclear ash blanketing a fallen world, or the ashes of a life spent worrying about that which will never come. We will live, we will thrive, and there will be no end times. Thank you.